Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the second of two April 23rd, 2018 special editions of the Breast There Is, the Breast There Was, and the Breast There Ever Will Be Wrestling podcast. As always, I am your host, Mikey B, WWE. And this is doing a second of back-to-back shows here, catching up on the first two jam-packed, fun-filled weeks of Monday Night Raw and SmackDown Live after following WrestleMania. If you were to say that these 2 weeks were busy, would be the greatest understatement. So there's so much going on. It's a mad jumble out there right now. After the first week back, we learned of a lot of new faces being brought up to the main roster in WWE. We also saw many returns back to the roster who have been away on injury or have been working in other wrestling promotions, things like this. And now this week, we're getting a superstar shakeup, which means many of these superstars, some returning, some new, some who have been here for a while, are going to be flipped around from one show to the other. So there's going to be a lot going on, and I think hopefully starting next week, we'll be able to see, once the dust settles, how everything's going to shape out, and some of the new feuds we can look forward to for the coming year here in the WWE. So this week here with the Superstar Shakeup, it began on Monday Night Raw, the 16th of April. The first member we learned who has moved from SmackDown Live to Monday Night Raw is the new United States Champion, Jinder Mahal, who was soon confronted by the recently returned Jeff Hardy. And Jeff Hardy then he challenged Jinder Mahal to a United States Championship match shortly thereafter. And what do you know? He was victorious and captured the title right there, just like that. So Jinder Mahal's United States title reign was very short-lived. Following this, we found out that these two are going to have a United States title rematch coming up at the Greatest Royal Rumble event. Besides this, we also learned that the team that debuted the previous week on Monday Night Raw, the Authors of Pain, who were escorted in their debut by the legendary manager Paul Ellering. Apparently, Paul Ellering is no longer with these guys after their first week. They're saying that they weren't listening to him, and so he's disgruntled and left them, something to this effect. But either way, they got a nice, quick little push from a legendary manager. So we'll see how they can continue that and maybe become a prominent tag team in the main roster in the WWE. We also learned that The Miz is moving over to SmackDown Live. There's like I said, there's lots of changes going on, so don't be surprised if you can't keep your head wrapped around all these, because I'm certainly having trouble myself over here. We also were treated to the final match of the Tag Team Eliminator, which was started the previous week on Monday Night Raw, to determine which team will go up against Cesaro and Sheamus, who had just recently lost the tag team titles at WrestleMania, and are getting their rematch in their rematch clause. So they're getting their rematch at the Greatest Royal Rumble event coming up in Saudi Arabia. And the matchup was between the Revival and the team of Matt Hardy and Bray Wyatt. Both teams were victorious the week before on Monday Night Raw to qualify for this match. And the victors of this match were Matt Hardy and Bray Wyatt, the newly formed kind of crazy team there. But I think it's interesting combining these two guys and seeing what they will do. I think they can be a very entertaining tag team for the foreseeable future. So I like the direction that they're going with those two guys. We also learned, and this is something I'm just loving hearing, that apparently for this next year in the WWE, every pay-per-view now is going to be a co-branded event. And I'll tell you why this is good. For the past few years, they've been increasing slowly and surely the number of pay-per-views every year. For a long time, it was one every month, and then it's been slowly boosted up. Some months feature two, and some only feature one. And so I think last year had something like 19 pay-per-views. I'm not sure yet what the total number of pay-per-views will be this year, but the good news is that at least when you have them co-branded like this, each pay-per-view is going to choose essentially the best 3 or 4 programs or feuds going on, and featuring them on the main card, which means that each pay-per-view card is going to be really stocked, and it's going to be really they're going to be really loaded cards. There will be lots of great matches, and there's not going to be many filler matches that are better reserved for TV shows or house shows that are non-televised. So this is a great thing, and I am very happy that the WWE came to the realization that this is what they need to do to give the best product. So I wholeheartedly agree with this move. So besides this, some of the other faces we learned who are now on Monday Night Raw are some of the following. We learned the tag team Breezango, Tyler Breeze and Fandango, are on Monday Night Raw. Also Bobby Lashley, who returned last week on Monday Night Raw. No Way Jose, the Brothers of Pain, Ember Moon, Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, Jinder Mahal, and the Riot Squad. We also learned that Natalya has made her way over to Monday Night Raw, and she was confronting Kurt Angle and even Ronda Rousey backstage. And as we learned, Ronda Rousey and Natalya are good buddies. So besides this, Dolph Ziggler is another member who has just recently joined Monday Night Raw, and he was confronted by Titus Worldwide. And soon after this, we got the return of Drew McIntyre, a wrestler from a number of years ago. Him and Dolph Ziggler then proceeded to beat up Titus Worldwide. So they might be a new tag team, or at least a faction of some sort, or maybe just in cahoots and got each other's backs. So there's a return there. They did reinforce the Roman Reigns versus Samoa Joe at Backlash matchup, so it sounds like that one is going to stick, even though, again, the company is simultaneously promoting this greatest Royal Rumble event in Saudi Arabia, which, again, to me appears like it's a one-off special event being held. I am going to go into greater detail about this on my next week program, because the pay-per-view is going to be held on a Friday. So it's definitely a special one, which I don't think will be on the regular calendar, wrestling calendar every year. So, and there's some very different, unique matches going on for this. So it is out of the ordinary, and I'll get into all of that on the next program. Besides this, we also, we saw that Natalya had her first match on Monday Night Raw in quite some time, as she took on Mandy Rose from Absolution, and she defeated her. And following the match, Sonya Deville, Mandy Rose's partner in the faction of the Absolution, was attacking Natalya, and Ronda Rousey came down to the ring and helped defend Natalya. So their friendship looks like it's pretty strong. We also learned that Baron Corbin is joining Monday Night Raw from SmackDown Live. And in the main event, there was a massive 10-man tag team featuring many of the new faces to Monday Night Raw, some of the returning guys. And one thing that's notable about it wasn't anything special, but we learned that now that The Miz is leaving to go to SmackDown Live, he's not being joined by the Miztourage. And in the main event, they let him, they hung out Miz to dry. They didn't help him out on his way out. So it looks like that faction is now split apart for good. So that was all the news from Monday Night Raw. Moving over to SmackDown Live the following evening on the 17th of April, we learned that Chad Gable has been moved over to Monday Night Raw, as Sheldon Benjamin criticized him and made it sound like he's kicking him to the curb, and he's going to do better off in singles competition himself. And Sheldon Benjamin in singles competition opened a challenge, and first person he thought he was going to face was Randy Orton, who was soon replaced by, before he even got down to the ring, Jeff Hardy, who just recently, the night before, won the United States Championship from Rusev. He is now apparently in the Superstar Shakeup being placed on SmackDown. So Sheldon Benjamin took on Jeff Hardy in a non-title match. Jeff Hardy was victorious. And we also learned, also new to SmackDown Live besides Jeff Hardy, we got the Absolution members, Sonya Deville and Mandy Rose. They are now joining SmackDown, which I think is a very good move, considering that Paige is now the new general manager on SmackDown Live. It only makes sense that her former Absolution members of the faction they were all a part of together will be on the show together, and it'll be interesting to see how she plays favorites or does not when it comes to them. Besides this, we also learned that Samoa Joe has joined on to SmackDown Live, and following a victory over Sin Cara in his first match on SmackDown, Samoa Joe went on a bit of a verbal tirade calling out the likes of Daniel Bryan, Randy Orton, AJ Styles, and Roman Reigns, to name all these guys that he wants to take out. So that's, at least right now, at least I don't know about the Roman Reigns one, since it appears that he's sticking around on Monday Night Raw, but all these other ones right there is a little brief highlight about some of the feuds we're probably going to see in the next probably half year or more, with Samoa Joe, Daniel Bryan, Samoa Joe, Randy Orton, Samoa Joe, AJ Styles. All three of those would be pretty great, I gotta say. So besides this, we also learned that backstage, as Daniel Bryan was being interviewed by Renee Young, we got the return of Big Cass, who of course was injured many months ago, shortly after SummerSlam, and it was soon after turning a heel character, leaving Enzo Amore. And now Enzo Amore being kicked out of the company, it's going to be interesting to see what they do with Big Cass's character, since there's no chance for a reunion with the two of those guys, which the company would have loved to promote at some point, had of course Enzo not run into any troubles and had to get kicked out of the company. So anyways, Big Cass is on SmackDown, and that's an interesting spot for him, and it'll be interesting to see what they do with his character. Besides this, we also found out on SmackDown Live are the teams of Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson. Cesaro and Sheamus are also now on SmackDown Live. R-Truth, the wrestler, The Miz, as we already know. We have Asuka on SmackDown Live, and a new group called Sanity, which has not appeared yet. And also Andrade Cien Almas and Zelina Vega. So again, lots of names here that it's gonna take some time for all of us to get sorted out and remembering everybody here. And besides this, in the main event, it was the team of tag team match with AJ Styles and Daniel Bryan, who had their singles match interrupted the previous week on SmackDown Live, taking on Rusev and Aiden English, and AJ and Daniel Bryan were victorious as a result of a disqualification, because both Shinsuke Nakamura came in and attacked AJ Styles, and Big Cass came in the ring and attacked Daniel Bryan. So boy, there's going to be already lots of potential feuds shaping up here in these first few weeks following WrestleMania. So it's getting juicy. There's lots of great stuff starting up next week, like I say. Really starting tonight on the programming on Monday Night Raw, and tomorrow on SmackDown Live, we'll see some more developments heading into this Greatest Royal Rumble event this Friday, and then also into the back to the regular Sunday WWE pay-per-view scheduled Backlash in a few weeks. So lots coming up. And before I end my show, some big news in the WWE, which is not in the storyline, but certainly affects some personalities in the WWE universe. We learned that John Cena and Nikki Bella, just shortly after a year of being engaged at last year's WrestleMania 33, getting engaged in the middle of the ring, they have decided to split up just a few weeks prior to their wedding day, which is certainly unfortunate news for the two of them, and I'm sure a lot of people in the WWE universe are sad to see that after it was much talked about event last year when the proposal occurred. So that's really unfortunate for them. And when we learned that Daniel Bryan was returning as an in-ring performer a few weeks ago, just before WrestleMania, I even already shouted out the option that they were going to do a family feud style program with Daniel Bryan and Brie Bella taking on Nikki Bella and John Cena. And the company would have done that if these two would have stayed together. So it seems that we will never get something like that, which is not a big shame anyways. Too bad for these guys in actuality, so that's really a shame. So anyways, folks, that pretty much covers it. All the important stuff here in this past week. Again, so much has been going on in the last 2 weeks. I think now things will start settling on tonight's and tomorrow's Raw and SmackDown. We shall see. So definitely don't forget to like and subscribe below if you liked what you heard today. And also feel free to leave any comments or questions below if there's anything on your mind you want to know about the new programming going on for this start of this next season in the WWE. So thanks very much for listening, and see you next time.